This is a big box. And inside this box is what I think could potentially be one of the sneaky best deals of 2024 in terms of computers for Apple. It also could be an incredibly terrible deal, but we'll see. So what is inside the box? Oh! This is what I think might be the sneaky computer deal of the year. Oh, it's got this peel on it. This is a space gray iMac, which means this is an iMac Pro. The iMac Pro released back in 2016 to much fanfare, as it was the first update Apple had made to their Pro lineup since the 2013 Trashcan Mac Pro. I personally always wanted one. I understood the lack of upgradability, but it was a super cool looking computer. The configuration of mine is the base model with an 8-core Xeon CPU, AMD Radeon Vega 56 graphics, 32GB of RAM, 1TB of SSD storage, and of course, a gorgeous 5K display. So let's get this all plugged in and hooked up and see what we're cooking with. This is the first turn on. All right, let's hope the screen survived the shipping. Ooh, thunderous bass. There it is. It works. I wonder if the keyboard's connected. Let's go. I'm gonna get signed in, then we can run some tests on this thing and let's chat about it. Okay, so I've had the privilege to use this unbelievable computer for the last couple hours. This is not a comprehensive review that will be coming out later on this channel. This is just my first thoughts, what I think about this computer. Okay, the first thing that I think about this computer is the color is incredible. I love space gray. My MacBook Pro is also in space gray. I think they both, that color is awesome. I love the way that this computer looks. The bezels obviously age this computer pretty significantly, especially when phones have like 98% of the screen to body ratio at this point. So you can obviously, you'll be able to tell that the bezels are there and that they exist. But at the end of the day, you get so immersed in this screen. The bezels, to me, you don't really notice them. The next thing is the number of ports that you have in the back, which is great. You have an Ethernet port, headphone jack, SD card port. You have 4 USB Type A ports and 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports in the back. So this is, there's more I/O in this computer than anything Apple's made in the last couple of years, other than maybe the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. But this was obviously a workstation, work class station computer when it came out in 2017. Some of the good things obviously are going to be the screen. It's a 5K screen, which means it has over 5,000 pixels on this axis alone and almost 3,000 pixels going vertically. So when you are looking at this screen, it is quite literally the best display I've ever looked at. I am not a display snob. I don't know very much about displays. I do know when one looks good though. This display is next level unbelievable. So keep that in mind as we continue on with this review. The next thing I noticed is that it gets warm. When you're running some of these tests, when I was running Unigine Heaven and when I was running basically any of the benchmarks except for Geekbench, I noticed how warm the computer would get, and you could actually still feel the warmth of it. The way the fans shoot out at the back, it actually hits the stand in the back and then the air drops below and underneath it. I don't think that that's the best way to cool. I think it's just shoot straight out the back instead of having it come and up through the bottom, which is kind of a weird way because the fans didn't suck up a lot of the same air. The next thing you can think about is how powerful this computer is. And I ran some very basic benchmarks and you're gonna see them on the screen here. It got 1,360 on the single core score, 7,712 on the multi-core score. Unigine Heaven, it got almost 84 frames per second on medium settings on the benchmark. And then the Cinebench 2024, it got a score of 2779 on the GPU and 585 on the CPU multi-core score. So I'm a video editor and I know that everybody gets upset because people on YouTube edit videos. That's what I do. That's the thing I use a computer for the most, other than like stuff the phone can do. This computer is good. Okay, so this is Future Scott. I just finished editing this whole video on the iMac right here and it's incredible. I can't believe how well it still works in 2024. Oh gosh. I quickly was scrubbing through a timeline of 4K, 10-bit footage timeline, nothing crazy, and it was handling it quite well. And then I exported that video. It was a 10-minute long video. I just wanted to see how long it would take to export, and it took almost 6 minutes exactly to export. And then I tried the exact same file, the exact same timeline, everything the exact same on my MacBook Pro. And that took just under 5 minutes. And that's one of the interesting things with more modern computers is obviously M1, M2, M3, they're all incredible. They're the greatest things ever. But when you do a task like what I do with video editing, and you get to the margins of power where you're just basically at the precipice of the best thing ever, which is where we all are, what you begin to realize is that a 10% gain here, 20% gain here, 30% gain here, what's the difference between exporting that video and it taking 6 minutes versus 5 minutes? So I think that's the conversation you need to have with yourself, is how much power do you realistically need in 2024? The baseline of this computer, the specs are going to be an 8-core Xeon processor, along with an AMD Radeon Vega 56, 32 gigs of RAM, and a terabyte of storage, which is exactly what this thing has. But I'm going to be upgrading it, so stay tuned for that video. And you need to ask yourself just how much power do you need? And then there's obviously the elephant in the room with the price of this thing. So it costs $1,000. This one cost me $1,067 to get it shipped to my house. Could you find one cheaper locally? Maybe. I found one for $1,100 locally. That's the lowest that he would go. Maybe you could find one cheaper locally. The likelihood of finding an iMac Pro locally, though, is very slim. This isn't a MacBook Pro. This wasn't a computer that a lot of people bought. This is a very niche computer for a niche person. And here's the thing. When you're thinking about buying this computer, you have to weigh a couple things. How much power do I actually need? How long do I need to use it for? Because obviously this is going to stop receiving updates here pretty soon. It's a 7-year-old computer. But the thing is that this computer is so much more than its computer, the components. Obviously the components in here are probably worth $300, maybe $400 on a good day if you were to put it into a Windows computer and spec it out like that. And I don't know if anybody would. You would probably just use Ryzen anyways. But should you buy it? And obviously, this is more than just the components inside of it. There is a 5K screen. That is the crux of this video. That's the thing I wanted to get down to the bottom of. Does this screen make it worth it to buy this computer? And I think for some people, it will. All right, so it's the next day, and I had to do some more thinking about this because I've actually really enjoyed using this computer, and it's a type of thing where if I had unlimited money, I would certainly keep this on my desk because I like it so much. My initial impressions was it might be a good computer for some people because of the screen. And I thought about it last night. I was like, well, what about the ultra-fine 5K monitor that you can buy used? I found a couple for around $500, $600. So that leaves you another $400 or so to get a computer. You can get like an M1 Mac Mini for about that price with probably 8 gigs of RAM, which I would tell you not to do. Definitely get 16. Never get any M series Mac with not 16 gigabytes of RAM. So I'm really struggling saying to not buy this computer because I know people's first thought is no, it's really old. Obviously M series is better, but I kind of proved to you that on exporting and video editing, and I've edited this whole video on the iMac Pro, that it still holds up very well in 2024. So the question basically becomes, is the screen worth it? And I don't know. See, the problem is that the screen isn't a screen. It requires a computer inside of it. Ultimately, yes, you could, if you're willing to cut open the display and take out the board, you could put another daughter board into it, and you could use that display in the future. But that's way beyond the bounds of what any normal person is going to be willing to do. So that's the problem, is that this display in 3 years, when this computer doesn't hold up anymore, when the M6 series chips are out, the M3 series chips in a Mac Mini are $400, and those are way more capable than the computer inside of this, then I have hesitations about saying buying this. But it's like, how long do you want to use a computer for? And how do you think about a computer? Is it something you're going to use for the next 15 years? Well, if that's the case, then this probably isn't the best computer. But if it's something you're probably going to upgrade in 2 years, and you buy it for about $1,000, and then you sell it for like $600, and it only costs you about $400 all in. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, because part of me thinks this might be the steal of the year. 5K display, unbelievable colors, unbelievable brightness, the best display I have personally ever used. But attached to it is a 7-year-old computer. That's the crux of this, and that's the problem, is that 7-year-old computer was very powerful at the time, and it still does hold up in 2024. And it'll probably hold up in 25, and probably 26, but there's going to be a point when it doesn't hold up anymore. And when it doesn't hold up anymore, like, how much can you sell it for? Do you buy it for $1,200 and then sell it for like $200 and lose $1,000? But in that 2 or 3 year period of time, you made $20,000, $40,000 on it, then it was a good investment. So it's hard for me to say. I'm sorry I don't have a definitive answer. I need to use it more, and I will tell you a definitive answer. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. This has been Scout Techno Eclipse. Peace out.